drive tech made in Mexico. So it's got some patents pending and stuff like that. I wonder if I could take it apart and modify it. Give me a minute. That's alright, this is DIY amateur hour. So far, so good. This is building a custom car in a 2-bay garage with limited tooling. Getting there with the tooling though, I'm slowly buying better stuff and more stuff and things to do what I need to do. Hey guys, welcome back to DMAC Customs YouTube channel. Dave here, back on the Area 51, and got a couple more things I've got to dial in before I can start blowing this thing apart. And one of them is transcooler. So I'm gonna find somewhere to put this and fit it in there, and hopefully it will work when it all goes back together proper like. Okay, so let's get at it over here. Okay, so if you've got through the intro and you're here, you're listening to this part, and you've been following the build on the Area 51, I've been working through finding places to put things, the ECU, battery, fan, all these little jobs that need to kind of be figured out before I can kind of pull this thing apart and start final welding things and painting things and doing all that stuff. One of the things I've got to do now is put a transcooler in and find a place to put it. Now the radiator actually has a transcooler fittings and stuff in it, but this has got a 4L60 in it, which don't have a great reputation for being, I don't know, the strongest transmission around, but they're pretty good. Like, as long as you don't beat the death out of them, they're all right, sort of thing. So, but it wouldn't hurt to put a little bit of extra cooling capacity in. So I'm going to put this in as well, and I've got to figure out where it's going to go in a good safe place that it gets plenty of airflow and not get knocked around or get in the way in the future. I've got some ideas on where I'm going to put it, and so let's get in there and have a look. Yeah, so I think this is actually the same one I've put in the bomb truck. Now this is a oh god, what's the brand again? Drive tech made in Mexico. So it's got some patents pending and stuff like that. Now the one that I've got in the truck, I've got mounted in behind the grill. Again, I'm not gonna sandwich it up against the face of the radiator, because I don't know what is. Everyone does it, but I just don't like it. So I'm going to mount this kind of independently away from the radiator. So my arm was getting tired, so like holding the camera and stuff. So I'm going to mount it away, not sandwiched up against the radiator, for a couple of reasons. Already got the fan in the way, so because I have to put a pusher fan in this because I haven't got a lot of room down in there somewhere. Now the instructions say you can mount it on the back side of the radiator, which, you know, potentially could do, but you know, down there. But man, just everything gets a bit tight and a bit squished and whatnot. Not that these require any servicing, but if you did have to take stuff out, it's just makes it hard. So I'm thinking of putting it right here, like this, down in front here, like making up a little stand so it can kind of just sit there, get plenty of flow through while driving, and also pick up a little bit of blowy sucky thing from the old fan as well. So, and then I can run the lines down through that pan this down here, and then they can tag in up under there, come out there, and I don't know, go wherever they need to go to tag into the actual trans lines off the transmission. So as usual, I don't really have a super solid plan of how I'm going to do this, just roughly where I'm going to put it. I did think about putting it under here, but then, you know, really susceptible to getting banged around by stones and stuff like that, which is not really ideal. So, you know, if I'm doing a rally in the 51, you know, gravel roads and shit, won't be doing that. But yeah, so decided not to put it under there. I'm going to put it down here. So to start with, I'm going to make it like some kind of pedestal bracket to anchor it from the little bottom bit there to down in there. Might even use some more rib nuts. So that's where we'll start. Quite a cool little kit. This came with some hose and came with all the stuff to use. You know, the zip tie things, hose clamps, barb fitting. Not quite sure what that's for. Might be if you, I don't know. But yeah, not really going to use much of this stuff. I'll use the clamps obviously, probably, and probably use some of the hose eventually. But yeah, start with, let's get in and start making up some kind of pedestal bracket thing, and then I'll need to make some little bracket, maybe tie it back to these bolts, radiator bolts on there, just like that. Easy as, should be done in about 5 minutes. Also got me one of these, a grommet for the EFI harness for the Holly Terminator X Max. Instructions for that specified a 2-inch grommet. I looked high and low in New Zealand and couldn't find a nice-ish looking 2-inch grommet. I think I did find, you know, just big ass ugly grommet, and that just wasn't going to suit my application. So I ended up looking up the instructions, and they recommended this particular Earl's firewall grommet. It's a blank, so you can cut the hole the size that you want it. So I'm going to use that. Still haven't, I was going to put it down there and have my harness come through there and come up, feed into the back of the motor from there. And my ECU is up over there, and because the harness is really long, so I thought I might use up some of the extra harness that I can lay it up over the top of the heater up behind here. I don't know, that's why I haven't drilled that hole yet. I'm still like second guessing that decision to bring it out there when I've got other stuff happening over here. It might be kind of neater if I actually just bring it out here and then figure out how to deal with all the excess harness when we get that far. Okay, and yeah, still got to push this battery down. It's still up on a bit of a funny angle, but I've got to drill another hole, but I'll take all that out later on. So let's get into making up bracketry to hold my trans cooler and drilling some holes and screwing some screws and stuff like that. Cool, let's get into it. Alright, so rummaged around in my small scrap drawer. This is some of the leftovers from last week's exercise. Was my battery tray. Yeah, so I might be able to use some of this. A little bit short to go out to the very end, but I don't really need it to, I guess. I could probably just use these 2 holes here and make that my rise up and put it either sort of like that, maybe weld it together. If I had a big enough piece, I would just would have just made it out of one piece, but because I've got those 2 bits of scrap that are almost the right size, I might just weld that together, get the right angle that I need to bring it up vertical. Yeah, that'll work. Hey. Okay, so start with that. Could even maybe still have enough gas left in the TIG weld it, but we'll see. I'll start with giving these a bit of a clean up, maybe trim them to size, and then yeah, get my angle, set it, weld it, drill some holes. It's still got a little bit of a slaggy daggy stuff hang on there from when I cut them off the other bit, so I just got to quickly give them a bit of a spruce up. So how big do I want to make it? So 107 millimeters, that's like, I don't know how many inches, 7 inches or so for the Imperial speakers. We'll go 180, even number. Alright, cut those down. Little 1mm tool shed zip disc. Right, so there's my two pieces. Now they're going to end up being on a, not on a 90 as well, so they're going to end up being on a like a slight angle, because that belly pan underneath the, behind the grill kind of comes down on an angle. It's not going to be 90 degrees, but I want this to stand up vertical, parallel to the radiator. Yeah, so how am I going to achieve that in the best way possible? Might just tack them. Actually, I'll use my this thing. Come. Okay, so I was going to use this, but this is really only good for getting your inside angle, because of that sticks out below, so I can't get that to lay flat on there because of that. How dumb is that? I wonder if I could take it apart and modify it. Give me a minute. There we go. Perfect. It doesn't stick out anymore, so now I can use this. I don't know why, I've had this for years. I don't know why I've never done that before. I think I was just content with my not so accurate outside angle finding. So now I can sit that in there and get that angle closer to what I want, hopefully. So that's about of course this thing changes its angle. This belly pan thing angle changes all the way up and down it, I think. Yeah, that's about it there, I reckon. Close enough to get me started anyway. I can dial it in with a hammer later on. Yeah. Right, to see if I've got enough gas left to do this. If not, it'll be MIG welded, but I'll get a little tack on there and then start messing with my angle. Good to go, I reckon. Alright, that's that bit TIG welded. I actually fusion welded most of it. I had blown a little hole down here so to get a bit of filler rod, and then I pulled away too quick and left a little kind of contaminated hole right there, so I just ground that back out and just filled it with a bit of filler, and I've got a little bit of undercut over here, but on the whole this is probably still hot as buggery. That's what I like about the old TIG weld, is the fusion welding aspect of it. So there's still reasonable amount of penetration in there. Now this isn't a this isn't a high load part anyway, so it's with a little bit of a grind up in there, that'll be just fine. Shouldn't have taken it out of the vise. Now I've just got to put it back in. A little bit of a grind up, and then on to the next stage. Hey, so that ground up quite nice. Still got a little bit of work to do on the inside, but for now that's as far as I want to take it. So I'm going to slightly different lengths on here, but I'm going to use tall end to go onto the old onto this fella here. So I'm going to sort of eyeball it to get my spacing for my holes. Yeah, it's about there. That's actually looks alright. I'll double check. I'll try and measure it nicely and stuff. 30mm centre. Alright, so there's my holes for there, and what I'm going to do is I'll make the holes pretty much in the same line on the bottom piece, where I'm going to bolt it on down the bottom, and then I might sort of do a bit of a, I don't know, round the corners, or I don't know, just sort of, I don't know, I might cut a bit of a shape into it just to make it like not a piece of bent angle iron, maybe. Yeah, close enough, good enough. Alright, centre punch on there. Yep. And yep. Yep. There. Just like that. Don't buy one of those off Wish. They're rubbish. I should really cut it up and throw it away to stop myself from grabbing it. I really like the idea of it, but $4 postage, as I've said before, is just too much for this. This is giving me more frustration than probably anything on this particular bench. So I put it back. Some pilots. Pilot holes, very important. Okay, so on the bottom side, I'm going to put the old 6mm through, so I'll put 7mm hole in there, give me a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, so there's like step one complete. So I got some well, step 1.5 and a half. Right, so I just got to bolt this on, and then we can see how it's all going to fit. Got wickedly long bolts, probably way too long. I'll have to maybe get shorter ones or just cut them down. Oh, come on. Just like that. Just like that, see? So I might dress this up. Obviously I've got to clean this up, but I might do something a little bit, you know, down there. Don't think it'll need any kind of angle gussets, because I'm going to have bracing up the top here as well. I'm going to have bracing, I don't know, we'll talk about it in a minute. Okay, back again. So let's have a look in where we're going to put it in front of the radiator here. So holding a hammer, just I'll show you why. So that's just to kind of push it down, hold it like that. So that's roughly where it's going to sit. I don't know, I was thinking, you know, having a bit of a gap between the fan and stuff like that, just to, I don't know, like if it's too close, will it only suck air into one part of it or something? I don't know, but this is my plan anyway. Is I'm going to put it about that far away. I'll just have it bolted down through that pan down there, and then I'll make up another brace thing that maybe attaches to these and kind of gussets it up a bit, just to stop the top of it sort of wobbling around like a wobbly thing and fatiguing the pan and the bolts and stuff like that. So I'm just going to mark some holes, drill some holes, put some rib certs in. I've only got aluminium ones left. Possibly these are steel ones. They're just on there holding the fan in place, so I might be able to snag a couple of those to put them down into there, down there, you know. And then yeah, rib cert, just because. Right, just squirting a bit of rust fix on there, just give it a bit of a sand up, and squirt a bit of that on there, just so when I put the rib certs in, there's something in between the rib cert and the hole. You know, it'll get all sealed up with paint and stuff when I paint it all and all that kind of stuff, but I just wanted to put a little bit of extra rust preventative stuff in there, because last thing you want is like a weird rust hole opening up in the middle of nowhere like that. So rib certs, put them in. Yeah, rib cert number 2. Can I get this in there? Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Alright, so let's see how I need to make some kind of brace to stop that happening. And while I'm here, I should mark the holes for the trans lines to actually go through this pan as well, because I have to drill those holes and I need to kind of know where to drill them. So I'll mark those and then we'll start working out the top bracket. Get this in that way, and centered that way. Oh, look at that, nice round number, 60 millimeters from there to there. I'll make it. Maybe some speed holes? Alrighty, so that's my plan for my top part of the bracket. Haven't done the return thing here or the fold down onto there, but that'll be what the top kind of looks like. Still might do some little speed holes in the top there just for good measure, you know, just because I've got speed holes everywhere else on everything else I've made, so might as well have some speed holes on this bit too, yeah. Right, so I'm gonna see if I can make that out of a piece of steel, and then I'll probably make it just a flat plate, weld that onto there, that'll bolt through onto, yeah. Blende. Okay, so I'm gonna add, yeah, just sort the camera out, you're right. I'm gonna add, say, 25 millimeters onto this back edge here that I'm gonna fold in the press to as my fold down, so I've got just enough steel to make this main part out of one piece, so I don't have to weld it together. So I'll start with adding my fold line on, just like that, and I'll rule it nicely. I'll do it as a dash line so I don't go cutting it. Something I like to do is, like, if it's a fold line, I'll do it as dashes. If it's a cut line, I'll draw it on as a full straight line, just so I don't get myself all crossed up and end up you know, cutting the wrong line. And yeah, just like that, and then I'll square those off. Yeah, one day when I'm a rich and famous like person, I'm gonna get one of those speed squares and a hoist. Just like that. So I might mark where my holes are gonna be on this, and there, and there. I won't mark the centers on there until I've got the fold on, because I'm most likely gonna get my fold in a slightly not so accurate place, and I also want to fold it from the other side, so I'll have to transfer those marks over to the other side, which I might just do now, since it's just a measurement. It does. I think they're slightly wonky, but close enough, good enough in my book. Right, I'll cut that out and back in a minute. Okay, so there's my piece cut with my extra 25 millimeters on it. So now I'm just going to fold it. My lines look like they're pretty much in the same place, so I'm going to fold it on that line, fold it that way on the press. Yep. And my blade is not terribly accurate that I made on this, so I just have to get it as close as I can with this. Looks like it's on the line-ish. Right, go for it. Alright-ish. Because I'd already cut that away, it didn't fold as sharply there for some reason, so I might just finish that off in the vise with the hammer. Unfortunately, not having a great press brake sort of thing and having to hammer stuff like this, I've got just end up with more kind of finishing up, cleaning up of hammer marks and stuff afterwards, but that's alright. This is DIY amateur hour, so that's how we roll. Okay, so next up I'm going to mark my holes on there. so I can bolt it onto the transcooler, and then I can work out the final part of the bracketry that bolts onto the radiator support, and then we'll get set about giving them all a bit of a beauty treatment, just to make them look a bit less like a bang together piece of steel in a garage in New Zealand. Yeah, okay. Okay, so this is where it is gonna sit, just like so, and it'll be about there, so I'll almost get those nut and bolt, those two bolts between there. I wonder if I should move it that way slightly, or if I trim this back, then it's easier to get to that bolt there when we come to bolt it all together and stuff like that. If I have that like that, then it's going to be a bit of a pain, isn't it, to get to it? Or do I just do... Actually, I might mark my holes, and I'll trim this back here. Actually, I think that's where the smart money is, as long as I can get it to not move around while I do said hole marking and stuff. Yeah, like that. And then if I... Oh, you dog. There it is. If I trim that back to there, straight up there, then it's going to be easier to get to that. Yeah. Choice. I ended up checking that, and the holes were like way out, so I'm going for that bottom hole there, that one, and that one, like that. 1, 2, just like that. Pilot. I drill a pilot hole first, because apparently it's harder on the big drill bits if you don't, apparently. Whoa. Come on, you can do it. Just get in there. Oh my goodness. Here we go. And get the 7mm out. Clean up the dags. So you don't get splinters. Right. Trim that back. There's my goggles. Where are they? Ah, there they are. Safety first, kids. Cut, trimmed, clean up the dags. Okay, right, now go and bolt that on. Clean that dag up. Go and bolt that in place, and then start making up my other bit. Shoelace coming undone, so you've got to make sure you keep your shoelaces tied up. You don't want to fall over and break your neck, as your mum probably told you when you were little. Getting to the back of these bolts is going to be a bit of a pain in place, so I'm going to put a couple of little tacks on the back of them, just have them as a fixed threaded stud as such. Yeah, so I'll just quickly do that. And you hate it when you forget to switch your bloody auto darkening helmet on, and then that first tack, you just, after that, can't see anything for about 5 minutes. The little bluey green dot goes away. Just tidy that up. But for now, that's on there, yeah? Update. Bolted in, well, one side anyway, and my socket and ratchet and stuff is kind of stuck on there at the moment, but that's how that's going to sit. Bit of clearance there, so if there is any slight movement, it's not going to be affected by it. So what I'm going to do now is cut another piece of plate about that big, maybe just a little short of it, and then drill some holes, bolt that on to there, on top of that, underneath those, and weld it on. I did think about welding it directly onto this, but I don't know, for some reason I have to reinvent this whole thing if it's not going to work or something else gets in the way. If it's bolt on, then it's just bolt on and make new brackets for something else, and I haven't affected these. Whereas if I weld it on there and for some reason I have to move this, then I have to cut it off and I have to repaint all this and stuff like that, you know. So with that said, I'll go and make a little plate, measure it up, make a little plate, bolt that on there, tack it in place, and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. Ruler. Punch. 1, 2. Alright, so that's going to be my little plate. So I'm just going to cut that, drill those holes, and we'll be back. Okay, so there's my little plate cut and made. Just note one of my corners is a different radius to the others, but marginally better. Right, so I'll go and bolt that in place and then we'll go from there. Alright, so that's going to go there like that, and then I'm just going to weld that on there like that. So I might give it a teeny weeny tiny little tack and take it all off, weld it all up and make it all pretty. Yeah? Right. Can I do this teeny weeny tiny tack with the TIG welder? Where's my glove? Old torch for that. Bloody baggy pants, it's sure hard to move around there. Helmet on. Alright, I need to get that to stay over there. I'm going to do that. There's a block of wood or something. Alright, so I'm about to attempt to do a TIG weld tack. I wonder if I should, can I do that? Oh. Can I do this? Can I do this? Whoa, got a wee tack on there, so hopefully that's going to hold while I get all this unbolted and so I can weld it up proper. Pull a block of wood out and my socket extension. Oh. Hey. Hi mate, I'm Lawrence. We've just moved in up the road. Yeah, nice and quiet around there, isn't it? Sometimes. Oh. Depends on whether I'm grinding or not. That was Lawrence. New neighbour. Right. Okay, so melted the paint, but that's alright. It's all going to be painted properly, but yeah, so there's me top bracket. Got to weld it up and then clean it up. And then got to get this other one out now too. Still don't know what I did with that Allen key. I put it away where it's supposed to go. Uh-oh. There we go. Put that there just so it can fall off later. There, look at that. All done. Right. Now, weld all this stuff up. Welded. TIG welded. Didn't film it. Like, it was just a little bit of TIG welding. But that's on there. I'm just going to give these all a clean up. Make some speed holes in here and clean this up. I'm going to shape this a little bit. Clean up the edges and round the corners and maybe step that in a little. Just so it doesn't look like a bit of like straight out angle lines, so it makes it look a little bit more professional. Mark out my speed holes first, I reckon. Not quite sure what I'm going to do yet, but just have a little drawer on here and do something about maybe that big. Like that maybe? Yeah, I'll drill the bigger ones and then decide from there whether I want to go any further than that. See if I can get one of these Chinese step bits to last the distance again. Here's my gloves. That's the blunt bit. Try this one. Haven't actually got any cutting oil, I've just been using lithium grease. It seems to help sometimes. Maybe not. Whoo, baby. Smoky. Oh, toast. I think that just burnt off the the tip of that drill bit, actually. Dang. Oh, damn. Okay, so there's my two brackets to hold my trans cooler in place. Just going to squirt a little bit of black etch on them and seal them up for now, and essentially that's them made. So I'll squirt a bit of etch on them. It's getting a bit late in the day now, so then maybe tomorrow morning I'll bolt it all back together once it's nice and dry and gives you a look then. Yeah. So yeah, so far so good. Pointing the wrong way. I'm over here, man. Right, just gonna wire these up, chuck a bit of primer on there, and we're done for the day. Rush hour. Right. Yep, still alive. Alrighty, so a bit heavy-handed on there and running. Oh no, just a gouge mark from the grinder. So that's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, just remembered, what did we learn today? Don't buy step bits from Wish. Don't buy mechanical centre punches from Wish. And I need to go out and buy some good step bits, and also not try to drill through steel at 15,000 RPM with no cutting juice stuff. So, and probably should buy some cutting oil. Till tomorrow. See ya. Okay, Merry Sunday. Sunday now, this next day. My little brackets are all dried off and ready to get bolted back onto the transcooler and bolt back into the Area 51 project. So, bolt those back together. Right, get some bolts. Nuts. Whatever. Okay, the other thing I got to do is drill the holes for the transmission lines to go down through that belly pan, and I'm going to drill them big enough, get all professional like, and I'm going to put grommets in. So I've got to choose the right size grommet. I actually don't really know what the right size grommet would actually be, but probably maybe that size, just a little oversized, and then I can just cut out the centre, and then the rubber line will go through there. I'll grab 2 of those little grommets, keep those handy. Now I've got to figure out what size hole I actually need to bore through that belly pan. Get what I'm saying? So I'm going to probably have to dig out my really bad step bits again and see if I can grind or burn a hole through there, and yeah, do a quick measure of about 23 millimeters roughly. Probably do 22, probably be alright. Alright. That one will probably do it. If I can get past the blunt parts, and go from there. Right, but it is only just really thin. It is only just really thin sheet metal, so it probably won't take too much drilling to get in there. Right, get that underway. Just drill me a pilot first, get them in the right spot. Let's go do that. That's my holes all drilled. Now, I'm going to come back over here. I want to show you something I just learned it all by myself, kind of. I think I've seen it on YouTube at some point. Now I've got to make holes in my grommets to allow for my rubber line to come through. So I'm just going to get an old socket about the right size, put it down here on this old block of wood about the right size, and grab a hold of it with these poly grips. Now some people call them channel locks, I understand that, but we call them poly grips, well I do. And then I'm just going to punch a hole with the old hammer in the socket. Almost. Might be able to tear that out the rest of the way. Just like that. It's not 100% perfect, but once there's a hunk of rubber trans line in there, that's going to work just like it's supposed to, hopefully, in theory. Right. See, learn something every day. I've never done that before, and I was going to try and cut it out with a little knife and things like that, but this seemed to work reasonably well, so I have to remember that for future grommeting. Okay, let's put this back in. Okay, so bolted back in with speed holes slightly out of alignment, but that's alright. Don't look too close. Look at it a little bit sideways. I didn't take the time to sort of measure and space out all those speed holes before I drilled them, and it shows. So, but now that I've pointed it out, you'll probably see it. If I hadn't have pointed it out, you probably wouldn't have noticed. But this one's a little low, and the spacing on this one here is a little bit off, but it's okay really. It's not going to make that much of a difference. It'll probably be one of those things that the air will flow over it and it'll whistle and it'll drive me nuts, and I'll just put some duct tape over the top of it and stop that from happening. But anyway, so there she's in, little bracket in the bottom, holes drilled for the lines to come through in here. I haven't put all the grommets and the hoses and that in there. I tested the grommets to make sure they do fit, and they do, and I'll just put them aside for when we are putting this back together for its final assembly, and we'll be using washers and all sorts of stuff like that when we get that far. For mock-up, I don't bother putting washers on everything. I do on some stuff, but don't always, just because you drop stuff and you end up chasing washers and nuts and bolts and stuff like that. So it's easier just to chase the nut or the bolt rather than all the washers as well. But I'll put them on when we put the car together, don't you fret. And yeah, so there we have it. Trans cooler mounted in situ. Seems to be fairly substantial. Hopefully that airflow will be all good in amongst there for engine cooling and for transmission cooling. I can't, I mean, I'm no scientist, but I can't see why it wouldn't flow enough air to get things cooled down and stuff like that. But time will tell. When we get this thing running, it might just run hot as, or it might run perfectly cool at all times. That's the hope anyway. Well guys and girls, if there is anyone still watching at this point in the video, gonna leave it there for this video on the old Area 51 project. Quite happy with how that trans cooler mounted up. I was kind of a bit hold on my sleeve. I was a bit wondering how I was going to do that for a while there, but yeah, I just had to go and buy one and then make it work. Thanks again for watching, if you're still watching at this point. I've been slowly trying to grow this subscriptions up on my channel, this channel that you're watching right now, and it gets up there, then it drops back, and it gets up there and drops back, and it's sort of, I'm just doing what I do, and hopefully, I don't know, somebody gets something out of it, you know, like maybe sort of gives them the confidence to go and get back into their project, or even get a project and teach themselves how to run them, you know, stitch some shit together with a MIG welder. Or I'm still learning how to TIG weld. I'm still learning how to MIG weld, to be fair. I mean, yeah, I still struggle with it after, you know, however many years of doing stuff, and mostly it's my lack of preparation that gives me problems. So impatience, don't be impatient. And yeah, so this is building a custom car in a 2-bay garage with limited tooling. Getting there with the tooling though. I'm slowly buying better stuff and more stuff and things to do what I need to do, which definitely helps, having some good tooling and stuff that you can make things with, and materials, but it's steel. Fortunately, I've got a mate who always has lots of scrap steel, so I go and raid his scrap bin and get little bits and pieces for making all these little brackets and doodads and whatnot for the old Area 51 project. Yeah, but anyway, if you're still watching, thanks for watching, and if you haven't subscribed, it'd be really cool if you do that, help get those subscriptions up. That would be awesome. You would just have to suffer through some advertising, that's all. And yeah, other than that, till next time, take it easy, peace.